figure it out when I haven't seen a comment in a while. I go and check my YouTube and see whether it says I'm live or whether it says it was posted X amount of time ago. Yep, we're back. We are back. Welcome to the beginning of the Yakima Valley. Trucks over. Here we go. The windsock isn't okay. The wind is behind me, so it's not bad today. All right. Mountains out there. Yep, there are some seriously nice looking snow-capped mountains out there. And that's the Cascades. Cascades run all the way down from Canada, all the way through the west coast, all the way down into Mexico. Is those mountains that you see that kind of split California, they're the Cascades. From, you know, splitting California so that there's an east side of California and a west side of California with mountains straight down the middle going north and south. Yeah, that's the Cascade Mountain Range all the way up. Rocky Mountains do the same thing. They come all the way down through Canada, all the way through the U.S., all the way down into Mexico. just outside of Yakima, Washington. There's a lot of orchards out this way. A lot of vineyards, a lot of orchards. You'll see a lot of asparagus fields, potato fields, wheat fields, corn fields. All kinds of crops come out of here. Notifications are not working, huh? You just got the notification, and I think other people did too, because we're starting to get more people finally come in. I know I lost my signal coming up over the couple of little mountain climbs back there, but you know, I really wish it would alert me that I lost my live stream. It doesn't. It doesn't alert me to that. I kind of have to figure it out when I realize the comments haven't moved in a while, and then go and check my YouTube directly and see whether it still shows live or if it shows that it was posted X amount of time ago. It's about the only way that I know whether I lost my stream or not, unless somebody tells me. So right now I got a good strong signal. It says I'm pushing out at 2,441 kilobytes a second. If you stay on US 12 across, you end up going through White Pass. I used to go skiing up on White Pass when I was a kid. And that's the Yakima River we just crossed. I remember all too often having a family reunion up here at somewhere between Yakima here and usually. It's been a while. Well, since I was a little kid. We haven't really had any family reunions since then. Nobody's put one together. Wish I had the time to organize one, but I don't. pit created into the windshield. So sometime soon I'm going to need a new windshield. Desert, it is still beautiful. Everything about nature is beautiful, no matter which way you look at it. You may not choose to live in this area or in places like this, but it's still beautiful to see it. I see 4 people in here now. Come on. I can see the number of people in the room, so it'd be nice to actually see you participate in the chat. I want to hear what your opinions are. What do you want to know? What kind of news do you have going on in your own little neighborhood? Whatever strikes your fancy, let's talk about it today. Come on. Get next to me, get next to me, get past me. Thank you. Now I can go this way. Seattle and coming up over the... As soon as we got up over the mountains, we're over here at 75 degrees. And in about another hour or so, it'll probably be the Tri-Cities. Signal again, because I'm all the way down in the 400 instead of the 2400. It almost always happens right here over this next mile or two. On the Minion channel. Oh, you know what? I don't have Minions channel. I would love... Matter of fact, I would love Minion to have my channel too. Vern's a great... what is Starlink? You're talking about a Starlink, technologically behind, even though I don't think I have that one on. Let's see if I hold my signal here, because I'm pretty sure I lose it here. It is per month for Starlink. Also, you know, if you're driving through a canyon or in an area really tall, a lot of times you will lose your uplink to any satellite through those areas because the mountains or the trees are blocking the signal. Alright, I'm gonna go check and see if I am still live, because I don't see anybody talking. Understand there's like from the moment that I say something, there's almost a 30-second delay before you hear it on the live stream, and then there's a small delay from you typing something in and it coming back to me. $135 a month for that internet? Oof. Oof. Ouch. We're truck drivers. We're not made of gold. Maybe after I dig out of this hole that I was put in, maybe after that I could afford it. But right now, no way. Especially not with the fuel prices where they're at. California from Reno, Nevada to get up to Seattle, we found several places in California where the diesel price was over $7.29 a gallon, and the gasoline price was sitting at $6.58, $6.60 a gallon. Matter of fact, I just got fuel over here in the Seattle area. It's North Bend, Washington, and it was $6.25. It's $6.25.9, so $6.26 a gallon. I filled up half a tank of fuel, 148.761 gallons. That's about half a tank for me on this truck, and that is $931.10. Anything above 50 cents a gallon is robbery. Because everything that is above 50 cents a gallon is nothing more than government taxes. Buy cigarettes, right? You're buying a pack of cigarettes. The company that makes the cigarettes only charges, they only literally make 50 cents a pack. All the other price on top of that is the state and federal taxes added on. People don't think that these by the Constitution, by the original Constitution, these taxes are illegal in the first place. We were never meant to be taxed. Exactly, Samantha. Exactly. Just like, what was it? This 40 billion, was it 40 billion or 70 billion that they just sent to the Ukraine, supposedly for aid, right? Guess what? That's not going there for aid. That's going there to be laundered. It's going there to be cleaned up, shuttled out into all kinds of different things, and then brought back in and then dumped into the politicians' bank accounts. They need a reset. They need a reset. Our financial system here in this country needs to be reset. What we need to do is we need to go directly back onto the gold standard. We need to go right back onto the gold standard. And when we do, I'm sorry, this is going to hurt everybody. Not just the elites, but this will hurt everybody. This is my idea. When they do the reset, when they do a reset and put everything back onto the gold standard, all money that was on the previous standard, this FISA standard or whatever it is, where it's just paper based on nothing. Whatever the government says the value of that paper is what it is, right? Whatever that is, whatever system we're on right now, all that money is worthless instantly. And that means for everybody, not just the poor man working on that doesn't have a job or barely has anything to his name, But even the super rich elite, all their money, boom, gone. Everybody has to start from zero right that day. The day to clean this, that goes. And that's only $70 billion for a fake war. Yep. Because they're going to put it out there and it's going to, and then you'll start, well, we don't know, we don't have access to see the bank accounts that certain politicians have in the Ukraine, but we know they have them. And you'll, if you are actually in the Ukraine and you know that stuff and you know which accounts to look at, you'll see that money start slowly funneling back into those politicians' accounts. If the U.S. is so out of money, if the U.S. is so out of money, we've pushed so much stimulus out there and we've sent so much money everywhere, we are completely out of our own money. They keep having to up the amount of money out there to say, and we keep having stimulus out for so long, they're going to throw us right into a nasty depression. So I'd like to know where in the world, since Biden has already bankrupted this country economically and financially, since he's already done that, where did the $70 billion barely make it out of bed every day. He's stuck with that crack pipe in his mouth. He can barely make it out of bed every day. How in the world is he getting paid for a job he knows nothing about? And who's the big guy, huh? Who's the big guy? This is what I'm trying to say, Samantha. Not a single politician, not one, that has been in office for more than 2 terms. Not one of them. Not one of them is one side or the other. It doesn't matter if they're a Republican. It doesn't matter if they're on the liberal side or the conservative side. It doesn't matter if they came from the flying spaghetti. They're in it for their own gain. They're all laundering. If they have had somebody else, do not vote for any. This congressmen and senators were never meant to be a career. It was never meant to be that way. We originally had term limits because it was never. You go and look. These guys have been in for longer than 2 terms. Perfectly decent track record in your opinion. And they actually meet all of the values, or at least most of the values that you are looking for in a candidate, that is who you should vote for. Doesn't matter what side of the fence they claim to be on. And the same thing goes for anything that's coming up on the bills. Like if your state is pushing a new bill through that you need to vote on to say yes or no to, research it. Read it from beginning to end, front to back, inside and out. Memorize it. That way you know exactly what you're saying yes or no to. Don't just blindly vote on something because your party said it was a good idea. Because the parties are the problem. Because there are no parties, really. There aren't. They're both pushing the same exact agenda. You ever notice how when Democrats are in charge of one side and Republicans are in charge of the other, nothing gets done? Even if you had all Democrats, you know, the only stuff that gets done is the stuff that we never wanted done. Doesn't matter who's in control. It's an agenda that is being pushed by both sides, no matter what they tell you. That's why you have so many rhinos and so many of them that just don't vote on something. They might be there and just not vote, or maybe they don't even bother to show up to vote on the issue in the House or in the Senate. That is because all of them are pushing one agenda. They are aiming everything towards this new world order. They don't want America to be America anymore. They just want to keep their pockets lined with the money from the greedy BS agenda pushers in the first place. We need a lot less government and a lot less legislation and a lot less regulation. It is not the government's place to tell us how we should be. It is not the government's place to not do. The only thing in this country that can tell us what we can and cannot do is the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Anything outside of that is just ridiculous. This idea, well, I mean, this country is coming apart. It's already bankrupt. It's already gone in the tank. In control right now, okay? And they did it in just a matter of months, maybe less. Most of it was done on the first day in office here with Mr. Biden. Most of the damage was done on his first day. You take a look at that. At this point in time, nobody in this country should be worrying about anything outside of this country. We should be 100% focused on fixing our problems here and 100% focus on bringing America back to what it should be. We shouldn't be yeah, we can care about what's going on out there in other countries, but we really shouldn't be focusing on it. We should care about it, but we shouldn't be focusing on it. We shouldn't be sending money out to other countries at all. We shouldn't be sending aid of any kind out to any other countries at all, whether it's financial aid or food aid or, you know, military aid of any kind. We should not be doing any of that. That should all be solely held still within the U.S. We should be focusing on bringing back all of the industry back to the U.S. We should have things manufactured here, not have to buy it from other countries. We should not be dependent on any other country for anything in this country. We are as rich as you could never imagine in this country, and yet we are being buy everything from everybody else. It's crazy stupid how quickly we went from being energy independent in the matter of one afternoon with one pen stroke. Sorry, the whole thing kind of really digs at me deep in my soul. It really digs in. I grew up in. I grew up playing around out here up to about 150, 200 miles north of here, probably about 200 miles east of here, and another 40, 50 miles south of here. Everything in this area that you're seeing from here on until we get well into Oregon, this is where I grew up. This was my stomping grounds as a kid. Yes, I still have family out this way, and a lot of friends. I feel you there, silly, I feel you. A lot of people lost their jobs the second that Mr. Biden signed that piece of paper. The oil fields, closing any fracking or drilling on any federal lands, closing the pipelines, all of that was malicious. It was done with malicious intent. Just like holding everything that COVID or holding all of those products in shipping ports and in warehouses and in trailers all over the country and refusing to let them go because they haven't passed anything COVID restriction. That's there. They're actually there everywhere, and I've seen them because of what I do for a living. Yet here we are, man. Government doesn't want us to wake up and fight them. They are doing everything they can to keep us from being able to do so, and this is part of it. Well, hopefully if Bambi Rita comes in here, she says hello. It'd be nice to hear. There's a lot. You know, unfortunately, we were energy self-sufficient in this country, and we were headed right back up to where we should be. And in the blink of an eye, an idiot signs away everything in his first day in office. And we are back to being far worse than we were 6 years ago. In just a few short months. Is that not continually repeating the same garbage over and over and over again, yet yet every time expecting a different result? I'm sorry. Stop voting for people that have been in office too long. 2 terms, that's all they should have in any seat. I don't care if they were 2 terms in a city council and then 2 terms in a county and then 2 terms at state level, whatever, or at the federal level. Just not in the same seat. Anything more than 2 terms and they should be out. Don't vote without knowing everything about that candidate. Don't vote for anybody that's been in longer than 2 terms, and don't vote without knowing everything about the candidate that you're voting for. Know everything that they have voted for in their past. Businesses that have gone under, know everything about them, and make sure you know their agenda. And make sure that their agenda actually lines up with what you believe in. I don't care what side of the fence they're on, but be educated in who you vote for and what you vote for. Because the parties are the problem. The people sitting in office for 40, 50, 60 years, those are the problem. People and become super elite rich people off of a meat based on their seat in Congress or in. Yet the rest of us sit here starving and struggling and living paycheck to paycheck. My company, I run my business, and you know what? Money than somebody sitting at home on welfare, and guess what? Pretty sad. I can go into the and has jewelry from one end to the other dripping all over her, and she showed up in a brand new Mercedes or a brand new Porsche, whatever. And she's whipping out that EBT food cart to buy $300, $400, $500, $600 worth of groceries in one shot, and she stares down her nose at me like I'm garbage because I'm buying a couple of little cheapy items with cash. I mean, if you need some kind of assistance, that's great, but if you have cars like that, and you have jewelry like that, and you have the kinds of houses that some of these people have, you don't need to be on that assistance. You need to sell off some of that crap. I see Bambi Rita. Hello, Bambi Rita. Scroll back and see when you popped into the comments. I want to read all of them. I'm going back to read them. Yep, I think you popped in right about here. You said hello. There you are. Okay, now. Just found the channel. Yep. Come Beckworth, thank you. Yep. Samantha. Yeah, hello. Yeah, Bambi participate in the chat. You know, that'll help form the channel the way, you know, we can discuss anything and everything in here within reason. There are some things that I refuse to discuss in here, and you'll figure those out as we go along. How exactly are we going to fix 2020? How are we going to fix 2020? You take a look at the original Constitution. The U.S. military should have stepped in. And the people that were being keyboard warriors the day after the election, all those people that called themselves keyboard warriors and thought they were doing great by passing all this information back and forth, and everything is being seen, and what is the dark shall come to light, and the swamp will be cleaned, and blah blah blah. All those people that were keyboard warriors then, they're still being keyboard warriors now. That whole thing was set up to keep the people that would have stood up the day after the election and marched on DC and said, enough is enough, no more. Those people that would have stood up, all those patriots, all of them, are still glued to their keyboards, thinking they're still being keyboard warriors and passing that info around, making sure that the people can hear it. Well, the people that you really need to hear it, we're already awake, and we're all the ones that have been passing that same information. The rest of them that aren't awake, they will never wake up until it is slapped in their face and the change is made. So keyboard warrior time is over. Over. It was over the day after the election. Where's all the people that should have stood up? They're still being keyboard warriors. That was one hell of a good psyop, wasn't it? That psyop, that whole thing that kept people thinking they were being keyboard warriors, I guarantee you, in my personal belief, it was designed to keep the patriots pacified so that they had no opposition to do what they were going to do. And they went and did it, and they succeeded. Research and know what's going on. The problem is, there comes a time, a moment in time, when everything that you researched and knew what was going on came to fruition. Once that came to fruition, you should have been standing up and marching, saying, no more, no more, no more, get out. But you did not. Not you particularly, Bambi, but the people in this country that still think they're keyboard warriors. Put down the keyboard. Become active. Become active locally. Become active in your town, in your city hall, your county seats. Anytime anything comes around to be voted on or discussed, get to that office and be there. Voice your opinions. Be heard. Be seen. Be loud. Be peaceful. But be heard and seen and be loud. Even in your own school districts, in your school boards. Be active there, because that's where a lot of the problem starts. Because they have been programming our children. They have been cutting back on the education. They've cut the education to almost nothing, and they're only teaching them what they want them to know. They don't even teach real history anymore. And you know what happens? If the people forget history, anytime you forget history, you are doomed to repeat it. Do you know what this entire new generation of children coming out of high school right now know about World War II? Do you have any idea what they know about it? I can tell you, because I've got kids that just came out of high school. Guess what? All they know is that World War II was a massive war fought overseas, and a lot of Jews died. They don't know anything about how the war started. They don't know anything about what kept the war going. They don't know anything except a lot of Jews died. Granted, my children, they know, because I made sure they know. But what they were taught in school basically was, yeah, there was a lot of Jews that died. That's all. End of story. Now let's get back to blackification. Let's get back to CRT. Let's get back to this gender politics crap. Yep, that's exactly what they learned. You know, when it comes to the gender stuff, you know, I don't care what your preferences are. You could be into animals for all I care. As long as whatever you're doing isn't hurting anybody or anything, and you keep it to yourself, you keep it behind closed doors, and don't shove it in my face or down my throat. Don't try to force me to be something I'm not. And don't try to force my children to be things that they are not. Children shouldn't even have to think about that until they actually have those bodily functions pulling at them, and you know. And if they haven't reached a point in their growth where their body is telling them what they are, leave them alone. Exactly. Don't try to indoctrinate the kids. Your father in Vietnam. My dad was stationed. He was in the Navy. He was an air traffic control person during Vietnam. He was stationed on the Coral Sea, right outside of Saigon. Both of my grandfathers. One of them was in World War I and World War II. The other one was in World War II and Korea. I went to Kuwait, and I went a lot of other places in the desert over there. We call it the litter box. Basically anywhere in the Middle East. One of my sisters also went, because she was Army also. I was Army, she was Army. So we have a long history of military in my family. I know when I get to the top of this hill, I'm going to lose my signal. I will restart the stream if I do. That it had nothing to do with protecting this country, or it had nothing to do with the values of this country, that it had everything to do with the oil that is there, or it had everything to do with the lithium deposits that are there, or whatever. Basically, the only reason we went was for greed, for greedy people, for greedy politicians, to line their own pockets. I'm sorry, you know, I can't get behind that. That's one of the reasons that I got out of the military after some time, because I realized why we were sent to some places. We need to focus on fixing what's here in our country before we even think about anything else in any other country. other than laundering the money of the politicians in this country. The Ukraine is just a laundry pit. That's all it is. There is no financials going back and forth other than money laundering. We have no financial interest in the Ukraine. We do not sell them any products whatsoever. And they do not sell us any whatsoever. We should not even be involved. Just like we should not be involved with the second we end up involved with the WHO and we give them any, we're going to have the United Nations soldiers on our doorsteps demanding our curfew. They're going to be demanding that we no longer work a certain job. They're going to be going through our houses and telling us what we can and can't own. The WHO is very bad news because we and yes, I apologize if I sound angry. I apologize if I sound angry, but I kind of am. I'm kind of very angry about the whole thing. And when it comes to the Ukraine, you know, they claim that there's this war going on in the Ukraine with Russia, right? They're claiming that there's this war, this deadly, deadly war. Well, here's the big problem with that. The Ukraine has a lot of the same TV shows that we do. You know, we have American Idol, we have The X Factor, we have The Voice, we have all of these different TV shows, right? Well, the Ukraine has their own ones that are the exact same, but they're in their own. And they are broadcasting those live. They're broadcasting them live. They're not pre-recording them and then airing them out. They're broadcasting them live. And when you watch them, and you watch the clips of them on YouTube after the fact, you never hear any gunfire, you never hear any explosions, and you never see anybody reacting to anything like that during any of that stuff. If that were true, if there was truly a war over there, would you not see any of that? Let alone, I'm sorry, but I can't imagine that if we were at war here, that our regularly scheduled TV shows, you know, like The Voice or American Idol or any of those that might be broadcasting live, I can't imagine that any of them would be. I can only imagine that they would have been canceled and shut down because we are at war. That should make you think right there. If they're still televising those and broadcasting them live, how in the world is it that they're supposedly at war? What is wrong with that trailer? All over the road. Yeah. Are you talking about that camper trailer in front of me? That's how everybody in a pickup or a van or whatever that is pulling one of those fifth wheel trailers, that's how they all look. That's how it is when they pass us. They are always weaving like that. They are so dangerous because the people driving them, they don't have to go to school to learn how. They're just allowed to. None of them know what they're doing. Yeah, the RV in front of you. Okay, that's a guy in a pickup pulling a trailer. He has no idea what that trailer behind him is doing because he's busy staring forward and only what's in front of him does he see. He doesn't ever hardly look in his mirrors, for one, and for two, a lot of the times, he's just looking at his phone. Everybody is so zombified by that stupid phone that they spend more time looking at it than they do at the road. And when the trailer gets a little cockeyed and it starts weaving back and forth, the driver of that pickup, 9 times out of 10, doesn't even know it's doing it. Unless it gets really violent. If it starts getting really violent and starts really jerking on that pickup, then he'll notice. jackknifed and rolled the thing. Or they've hit somebody with the trailer and they didn't even know it. People driving those things need to be forced to take a class in order to even get licensed for it, but they're not. That's not how it works. The only people that are forced to do that are the people driving semi-trucks. And see, also a lot of what causes that trailer to whip back and forth, the driver of that pickup might have changed lanes too fast, or he might have drifted off in his lane a little too much, and then he corrected really quickly. Like, if he didn't have that trailer, it would be okay. But because he's got that trailer, that correction that he made makes it whip. And once it starts whipping, it takes a bit before it stops whipping back and forth. And they don't know that. They just, well, I've got a trailer and I'm pulling it. The trailer's fine, it's right behind me. Making decisions. Everybody in this country should be behind the wheel of a semi-truck for at least 1 month before they would be allowed to have any kind of license for any kind of vehicle. That would open the eyes of every single driver as to what it really takes to operate these trucks. Once you've handled a truck like this, every other vehicle out there that you could legally have on the highway is child's play. I don't think 99% of the people out here driving cars these days knows a thing about how it takes, what it takes to drive a semi-truck, what it takes to stop it, what it takes to accelerate, what it takes to get it loaded. They know nothing about how it works driving a semi-truck. Or they also don't know anything about how they should react with their vehicle around a semi-truck. Because, 9 times, which tells you, I'm coming over. It doesn't tell you I'm asking. I'm not asking. Coming over. And you turn around and you hit your fuel pedal and get right up there next to my trailer, and then you slow down back to the speed you were doing because you didn't want me in front of you. Well, now when you do that, there is a very high likelihood that you just started the beginning of an accident. You don't know what's in front of that semi-truck. You cannot see around it and you cannot see through it. It may be making that lane change to avoid a possible accident. Now, you just forced it to stay in that lane, and if the accident does happen, because what bounces into your lane and then through your car or other people's cars. When a semi-truck turns his signal on, you should either back off and let them do it, or blast past them so that there's a gap behind you for them to get in. You have no idea. The problem is, you see, and I would recommend you slow down and let us do what we're doing, because a lot of times someone will see the signal come on and they'll blast past me, but everybody that was behind them also blasts past me, keeping me locked in that lane, and by the time I needed to get over, I can't. The same thing goes for when you're coming up on interchanges where there's like 2, 3, or 4 highways that are coming together in one area. Well, I may need a different lane to stay on the highway I need, but you're refusing to let me over. Now I have no choice but to hit the brakes and force all traffic on the highway to stop. in order for me to be able to get over. Because I may not even be allowed to take that exit that you're trying to force me to take. People just don't think. Everybody in this country has turned into me first, me first, me first. It's all about me, 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 me. There are far too many people that have just started thinking that way. Nobody thinks about anybody else anymore. Nobody has any forethought or caring about what other people may be going through or what they need to do. It's all about yourself now. That's what the country has done in the last 20 to 30 years. It's all about me, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, it's not all about you. The entire country should be one big family instead of a ton of little individuals. You don't have to like your neighbor, but you do have to get along with them. There may be a day when the neighbor that you don't like has to save your life, or vice versa. You never know. That little thing, what's it called? Being cordial. Nobody knows how to be cordial with anybody anymore. You may not like the person, but you should at least get along with them enough that you don't become enemies. No matter whether their ideas and their politics or their thoughts, if they completely disagree with you on every level, okay, let them. You have to agree with them, but you also don't have to go to war with them because of the fact that they don't believe the same thing you believe. And I don't care if it's a religious thing or a political thing or just, whatever kind of thing it is, it doesn't matter. It's trivial. Nobody has time in their life to waste on that garbage. We really don't. Our lives are too short in the grand scheme of things. You should always be willing to lend a helping hand to anybody, anytime, especially if it's somebody that you don't like or don't agree with. You should always be willing to lend them a helping hand if they need it. And if you happen to be the one that needs the helping hand, you should always be willing to accept it if you need it. Like I said, the whole country should be one big family, not a nation full of individuals. If we were more of a big family instead of individuals, we would not be sitting in this political mess that we are now. Check my log. Hang on. I have 1 hour before I have to take a mandatory half-hour break. I mean, I can take it right now, or I can take it within the next hour, but I have to actually be on that break before I run out of that time. And I hate that, because that stupid half-hour break just stretches out my day that much longer and makes me even that much more tired, which makes me probably that much more dangerous on the road in the long run. They said they were adding that because of safety and for sleep deprivation and blah, blah, blah. You know what? Like I said, I am more tired at the end of my day now thanks to that half-hour break than I was ever before that became a law. Welcome to the Tri-Cities area. Kennewick, Pasco, Richland. I grew up here. The family farm was actually 30 miles north of here. And yes, I said was. time when everybody that had less than 10,000 acres up here in the Northwest, you know, we all us smaller farmers, we'd operated on about 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. We'd always had loan. We always had a loan at the beginning of the year to buy the seed and the fuel and everything else we needed to get the crop in the ground, to get it growing, and pay for the water for it and the whole nine, and keep us eating and paying our bills and all that, right? So every year we'd start off with this loan. By the end of the year after harvest, the loan would be paid back and then some. So we would have enough to live on throughout the winter. Every year, like clockwork, throughout my grandfather's generation, throughout my dad's generation, and throughout some of mine, we always had that loan and we always qualified. We never did anything different. Until one year, one president made a lot of changes, and boom, nobody that had less than 10,000 acres in the Northwest, at least, I don't know about anywhere else, none of us were approved for our loans that next year. No one. It put a lot of people out of business. It closed a lot of farms. A lot of those farms got sold off. We didn't sell ours. We rented it to one of the bigger neighbors. One of the neighbors who had a lot more acreage. We rented it to them, and my dad went and took a local job down here, so he was driving an hour down and an hour back every day. He went and started a job down here at a very high-end plant. And now today, here a couple weeks back, he just retired from that place. He was running that place. He was the only guy really in charge out there by the time he retired. He had all that seniority. But, you know, some years back, my grandfather died. Right before he died, one of my aunts convinced him to change the will. So instead of the land going to my father, it had to be sold and split into three for my two aunts and my dad when he died. So that's what happened. That's what really knocked us out of being farmers. Between the banks not approving our loans anymore and my grandfather's death and one of my aunt's greed, she ended up getting nothing anyway, because it turned out my grandfather had bought the house she's in and she owed him money for it. The money she owed was more than what she was getting out of the inheritance, so she got nothing. country growing any food. They don't want anybody in this country raising any animals. They don't want anybody in this country. They don't want this country making any products. They don't want us producing anything that anybody could ever buy from this country. They want everybody in this country to solely sit down, do nothing, die off, and have to buy everything from every other country. They want us all. I'm a firm believer. They want America to be nothing but the police of the entire world. Well, we are not. We are not business over there 90% of the time. Skateboard down this hill, and I mean a real skateboard, you know, 4 little wheels, and you're by yourself just under the motion, under the pull of the gravity. Yeah, there were days I would come down this hill, especially coming the other direction from the hill right in front of me. I would come down that hill and I'd be passing cars while I'm on a skateboard. I loved my teenage years. I really did. I was a wild man. I was an adrenaline junkie. I still am. Back then, I probably stole the pickup or the motorcycle or something from the farm and came all the way down here to do it. To skateboard down this. Or just to hang out at the mall or hang with friends, you know. Back then growing up out here, you know, when I was put in the front of a pickup truck and told to keep it straight. Well, you know, my grandfather and my dad were out back throwing hay bales on the pickup. I learned how to drive real young. God forbid anybody teach. You end up with put them in danger. Some of the best truck drivers in this country. Some of the best truck drivers in this country and the safest ones. They all grew up on farms. They learned how to drive at a young age, and they were driving big trucks like this. Tractors. Several miles. When I was growing up, this was nothing out here. This was just orchards back here. For the last 10-15 miles, nothing but orchards and empty, dry sagebrush land, maybe some wheat fields. Right? That's all that was back here. And now we've got, I mean, the whole city used to be on the other side of these hills, from the left side. Everything from the left side of those hills down was part of the cities. You know, the Richland, Kennewick, and Pasco up the middle. But now it's all the way out here to the highway. I get there. Mainly because I don't want to run the risk of them saying, well, why aren't you on break instead of being here right now? Here's your ticket. Back and forth fusion is back. Kind of sucks that I'm climbing a hill and can't maintain my speed because, you know, a semi truck always slows down a bit going uphill. Just because we were farmers, see, my dad was a ham radio operator also. When I was growing up, we had 7 computers, home-built computers in the house, and I learned how to build computers and program them even before we had DOS. We didn't have them in our schools. They weren't really being sold to the public too much. I mean, if you wanted a computer, you had to buy this kit and build your own. Back then, this was a little bit before Apple. It was a little bit before Microsoft. You know, we had Heathkit and Zenith home-built computers. You know, and one of the things my dad used to do to supplement income during the winter time and sometimes during a bit of the summer, when we would have time, these TV and radio station towers up here on the hills. Everywhere in the Northwest, my dad was one of the only guys that qualified and was certified to climb those towers and work on the antennas and everything on them. So he did that, and I helped him do it. These towers up on this hill slightly to the left right now, they are about, they're a couple hundred feet tall, okay? And I can remember being, especially that tallest one in the middle, I can remember being almost at the top of it with my dad, helping him when I was just a teenager. A lot of the companies, yeah, the jobs didn't happen very often, but when they did, they would either pay him to drive down and pay him for his time up on it. They'd get him hotels and things like that, you know, and like, there were a couple of times they actually flew him up to Alaska to work on some towers. You know, they would fly him places to do it. And he hasn't done it in so long now. Not after, he had one heart attack. He had one heart attack many years back, and that stopped it all right there. My dad always made sure that we stayed up with electronics. We stayed up with technology. You know, and I try to instill that in my children too. That's why I gave them digital devices really early, tablets and laptops and cell phones and stuff. You know, I think it's very important to stay up with technology, no matter how fast it moves. The problem is now I can't keep up. It's moving faster than I can afford to. Like this phone that I've got, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, right? It was relatively new when I got it, and just 2 weeks after I got it, they came out with the 13. pick the right speed, set it, and try not to play with it after the fact. Because if I'm left to just use my foot, I'm doomed. I'm doing 80, 90 miles an hour without even thinking. Everything you see beyond that hill, that's all in Oregon. And yes, even though the Columbia River is behind us going through the middle of the Tri-Cities, we've also got the Columbia River right ahead of us. So when we go from Washington to Oregon, we will be on a bridge crossing the Columbia River. Columbia River is what divides Oregon and Washington, for the most part. On this side, first of all, hello. I am state. And when I get into Oregon, I will be transferring over onto I-84 and heading for towards Boise, Idaho. In Washington State, I am just a little bit south of the Tri-Cities. So if you look at a Washington State map, you're not going to see it as the Tri-Cities, you're going to see it as Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland. Three cities all together as one, named the Tri-Cities. Columbia River runs right through the middle of it. And it's in of the assumption that Washington State is everything you see right now within the next month is going to be so yellow and brown, beige, dirty, nasty, dried up, nothing. Maybe even burnt, because it does tend to burn in July. Welcome to the desert in Washington State. Most people in the country don't even know Washington State has a desert. They think it's all trees and green and rainy because of Seattle. Seattle's a very small section of Washington. And anything on the east, anything on the west side of the Cascades is very small compared to the rest of Washington State. The west side of the Cascades is all green and rainy all the time, blah, blah, blah. Everything on the east side is dry and desertous. Live in Kennewick. You know, I grew up here. I grew up here. I grew up on a farm in between Connell and Othello, about 30 miles north of the Tri-Cities. And I grew up playing around in the Tri-Cities in my teens. Most of my friends are from the Tri-Cities. At least most of my teenage year friends. So if you were from Kennewick, there's a possibility you and I knew each other back in the day, or at least had met or ran into each other. Because I used to have an apartment, and as a matter of fact, I rented a house in eastern Kennewick after I got out of the Army. But before I went into the Army, I had a couple of different apartments in Kennewick. And I got a lot of friends in Kennewick. Darren, you grew up in Tacoma. You know, that's where, you know, when I was like 13, 14 years old, I'd be middle of the night, I'd take the pickup or a motorcycle or a car, and I'd wheel it all the way down our driveway, our road off of the farm, which is like half a mile dirt road before you get to the main road out there. I would wheel it all the way down there and then start it and take off, and I would drive all the way into Tacoma so that I could be at the next night's concert at the Tacoma Dome. Yep. Because I never actually got in trouble ever for doing that. And here I am, 13, 14, state to go to a concert by myself. Thank God we didn't have social media back then, right? Because my God, if we had social media back then, I'd... Hello, Shirlene. Nice to see you're back. Yummy, but oh my gosh, what it really looks like when you first pull it up out of the... Oh my. They are really yummy. Now, anybody who doesn't know what a gooey duck is, Google it, or use whatever search engine that you use. Trust me, you'll understand why I said, oh my God, what it looks like. But they taste really, really good. You do realize I was there too. I went there to see Journey. I didn't care about Bryan Adams. I went there to see Journey. I was there. I was there. Oh my God, Shirlene, I was there. It is a very small world, is it not? You were there too, Darren. Oh man. Look at that. Very small world. Anderson. Darren Anderson. I know a Tori Anderson. I know a Sally Anderson. There's a lot of Andersons that I know. Andersons, there were a couple of different Anderson families on the west side of the or on the east side of the state that I grew up with. Everything out here on the other side of the Cascades in Washington, everything on the west side of Washington is in the Columbia Basin. Also here in Oregon, it's the Columbia, and it's all a desert. That is until we get up into the Blue Mountains in Oregon. Once we start going up the Blue Mountains outside of Pendleton, Oregon, then we'll be basically, once we come up the mountain, and that town you see ahead, that is Hermiston and Umatilla, Oregon. There are two small towns together. You can see a little gap in between them, but that's it. And they're all in Oregon. Everything you see up there that has the houses in the town area, that's all Oregon. We're still in Washington to be in Oregon. And I forgot to stop and take that stupid half-hour break, so I guess as soon as I get through the scale house, I'm going to pull it into the truck stop right there and take my half-hour break. Maybe get a bite to eat. Take you guys with me if you want. I don't know. I see somebody's feet on the ground in front of that thing. I don't know if they're going to walk around or out or what. No, they're standing in between the truck and the... Oh yeah, that's dangerous. If somebody rear-ended that right now, that guy would get squashed between his trailer and his truck. It's not too windy down here today. It is windy. There are days, there's been days where I've driven across this bridge and the front of my truck is way over here and the back of my trailer is way over there on the yellow line. Yep, there's days when it's been that windy over here. Crossing the Columbia River. I don't know if you saw this little marina, this little boat marina down here on the Oregon side before we got on the bridge. I know you can probably see a little bit of it right now. I helped build one of the jetties here to help keep the what are they called, the tumbleweeds. At certain times of the year we get so much tumbleweeds that it just, oh, they're closed. That's a first. They're closed. What does my thing say? Let's see. Let's see what it says. Nothing. Yeah, they're definitely closed. All right. I'm going to push a little further and get to a different truck stop that I actually like then. So there's when the tumbleweeds are really pushing, that whole marina would be so packed with tumbleweeds you could not get the boats out of their docks and get them to move because it's like even though there's water under them. So I helped build one of those jetties there when I was in my teens, and made it easier for the boats to be stored without worrying about the tumbleweeds, and you can still get in and out of the marina easily. Above 60 miles an hour now that we're in Oregon. Yay! Growing up out here in Washington and Oregon, everything was 55 miles an hour no matter where you went. Didn't matter whether you were in a car or in a semi-truck. It was all 55 miles an hour. And it took forever to get anywhere. I'm headed for the cabbage patch. Yep, a blue pickup on fire. Yes, I do remember that. Not my blue pickup or my dad's. Back then, for that concert, I took the little red Datsun pickup. Waiting to get out and watching people get out of each other's vehicles and start fighting with each other too. For a Bryan Adams concert, you wouldn't have even Journey. You wouldn't have expected to see people fighting each other in the parking lot trying to get out. truck parking. Yeah, this is this truck stop here in the Hermiston Umatilla area. W. A root beer float. I feel like a root beer float today. That's a good way to spend a half-hour break, right? Sucking down a root beer float. Here we go. Ooh. I don't know if I'm gonna find a place to park in here. They're already looking full up. Nothing coming, here I go, here I go. Here I go again. Yeah, they look full up almost. We'll see.
Turn left on I-84.
We will see. I see a few spaces. I'm good. Yeah, if anybody lives in this area and wants to come out and say hi, I'll be here for about half an hour. A little over half an hour, actually.